Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
My name is Bill, and I came today to share my deep wisdom and understanding with you. I need to warn you that what I have to say might be unsettling. It's very serious in nature. So please bear with me, and I hope it doesn't turn out to be too unsettling. I always wanted to do that. When I know I'm going to speak here, I have a couple of ways of going about thinking about what it is I want to talk about. And one thing is I think about things that I need to work on myself and that I need to dig deeper into. And then I can sort of immerse myself in a subject that will help me. And it's a little bit of a selfish motivation. And then I can come and share whatever I learn or discover or pick up from that. The other way is I also just sort of look and see what's working for me, what is beneficial for me right now, and can I bring that to share with the group? And that's what I want to do today. Because a few months ago, I noticed that I was laughing at myself more. I would find myself in situations where something was going on and I could be bemused by it. I could sort of get a chuckle out of the way I was reacting to some situation. And I also realized that that's a way of practicing non-self. It's a way of disarming this heavy sense of self that I find myself often going around with. The strong sense of identity can be a real drag. It can really pull you down. And there can be a real lightness and a freedom in not taking it all so seriously. A few examples. I have an Apple Watch and it gives you circles every day about what you can accomplish. And there's 3 different circles. One for standing, if you stand 12 hours, and that's a really easy circle to get. One for exercise calories, and you can set how many exercise calories you need a day. And one for how many minutes of exercise you do a day. And I've been doing this for years, and I became obsessed with it. It was like I didn't get my circles today, and I will do anything to get my circles today. You know, if I need 2 more minutes of exercise and I'm going to bed, I'll walk around the circle of my house, a couple of times. And I got to get those circles. It's nuts. It's sort of crazy, and it's very obsessive. But every so often I can just sort of look at it. It's like, you silly rabbit. What is this about? Why are you so concerned about this? And it sort of lightens it up a bit. And now it's a bit of a game in a way too. And I see it. And it's like, why do I want all these circles? You get badges if you get circles for getting all your circles every week or every month and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, when I die, is there going to be a big, big plaque on the wall with all my badges on it? Like, oh my God, look at what this guy accomplished. There's some good benefits to it, and the fact that it does make me exercise more conscious of my exercise and more conscious of how many calories I'm burning. So there's some good things to it, but the obsessiveness is nuts. Another thing that I notice where my sense of self becomes really strong is if I'm in a situation where somebody's serving me at a restaurant, at a store, or whatever, and they aren't serving me in the way I think they should be. And I can get puffy, and it was like, I didn't order that. I had fries, not a salad. And there's a sense of a powerful sense of self with that sometimes. And again, it's really sort of nuts. And if I could just sort of step back a bit and see that, it was like, girl, what are you doing? It lessens it, it loosens it up, and my sense of self, dissolves in some fashion or another. And it's really freeing, and it's really wonderful. And it's probably also good for the people that are serving me. For years, I taught beginning meditation classes, and I haven't done that for a while. But I'm actually starting again tomorrow, but my beginning meditation class is a kindergarten. And I'm doing a weekly mindfulness class in a kindergarten, which I'm really excited about. But what I picked up when I used to teach adults was every class, there'd be one or two people who would come to me privately and say, when I pay attention to my mind, when I really stop and listen to my thoughts, I realize I'm nuts. And it was like, yeah. And I would actually almost start meditation classes with saying, we're all nuts if we just stop and come back and pay attention to it. And there's a real freedom in sort of realizing that we're nuts and being okay with that, but realizing everybody is sort of nuts in a way, the way our mind works. Our mind just goes off on its own. And can we be amused by that? One thing that's also good about being amused by it is that it takes away the judgment, because sometimes we can see that and say, oh my God, I'm so fucked up. Why do I do that? I wish I didn't do that. Only a bad person would do and think things like that. But if we're amused by it, that judgment can be diminished in some way. And it becomes more of a comedy than a tragedy. Mm-hmm. Embarrassing situations can even be funny. The other day I was walking my dog, and I was going up this block where there's a big yard, but there's a wall and a big wooden door in front of it. And as I'm walking by it, I let out the loudest, longest fart. It was just, it just happened. And then I looked over, and the door was open, and the yard was filled with people. And they all were looking at me. It was like, what was that? And I got really embarrassed for a minute, but then I thought, this is actually really sort of funny. I entertain people for a second. But instead of like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I wish I hadn't have done that. It was like, oh, okay. It's a way of looking at ourselves without putting ourselves down. It's not without saying, we're less than, or we failed, or again, it comes back to that judgment in some way. It also, being able to laugh at ourselves, it's a way of helping us align with who we truly are. We think we're important. We think the world revolves around us. I mean, I don't know if you do, but I often do. And it's a way of stepping back from that a bit and maybe connecting with the fact that, we're just these animals that are connected to everything else, doing the best we can, walking around here for a short time. Let's enjoy it, and let's not take it too seriously. And this is a lot of what the Buddha has been teaching. Non-self is one of the foundations of the practice. Our getting caught up in our sense of self separates us. That isolation, it takes us away from the truth of what things really are. It's a very important foundation of the whole practice. It connects us with, you can see the difference between, am I the one that is huffy and puffy, or am I the one that can see the huffy and puffiness and step away from it and maybe be amused by it, but just I'm the observer. I can connect with the awareness of this person who is farting down the street or taking himself too seriously at a restaurant. It's a practice of mindfulness. It's a practice of awareness. I also think it's always really nice to connect with the absurd. And I realized from a young age, my favorite celebrities or people I was connecting with out in the world often were people that were silly and absurd. When I was a kid, I loved Alfred E. Newman. I loved Mad Magazine. And he really reflected back sort of the comedy that we live in. I loved Groucho Marx. Great teacher, a great teacher. I loved Gracie Allen, who actually, I believe, was born in Nicastro. She came from Nicastro in San Francisco. And I've been thinking about talking about Gracie. I thought there probably 90% of the population doesn't know who Gracie Allen is these days, but this group in here, I think most of us do because we're old enough. But her sense of comedy, but her sense of the absurd and the silly was so great. And it always sort of ended with, say goodnight, Gracie. You know, it's just like, okay, everything's okay. Excuse me. About the same time I was thinking about this being the subject of what I wanted to speak about, I learned that Wes Nisker died. And I don't know if many of you know, I think probably a lot of you know who Wes was, and hopefully some of you got a chance to sit with him or read some of his books or something. But he was a teacher in the East Bay, and he taught at Spirit Rock, and a longtime teacher in the Bay Area, but just a wonderful guy that really embedded the absurdity and the silliness and the wit of what we as humans go through, and really brought it into the practice of the Dharma in a really skillful and beautiful way. I was lucky enough to sit with Wes a couple of times, actually quite a number of times, but the first time was probably 30 years ago, and it was down in Joshua Tree at a retreat. It was a mindfulness and breathwork retreat run by Stan Groff, who originated holotropic breathwork, and Jack Kornfield. And Stan would do the breathwork in the morning, and Jack would do the meditation in the afternoon. Or no, maybe it was vice versa. I don't remember. But one night there was a campfire, and we were all sitting around the campfire. And late at night, there were only about 10 of us left. But Wes was there, and Stan and Jack, and we were singing "Row, row, row your boat" in rounds around the campfire. And I just remember looking over at Wes, and he had a smirk about him, like he could see the humor in most everything. But it was also this very kind sort of knowledge that everything's okay, and that he was really enjoying it. That was Wes in a lot of ways. If you ever got to work with him or sit with him, he was a radio DJ in the Bay Area for a long time. He worked for KSAN and KFOG, and he would often close his radio shows with saying, "If you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own." He got the name Scoop from covering the Chicago 8 trial. And I heard Eugene Cash speak recently about it, saying that Abby Hoffman actually gave him the name Scoop because he always had sort of the inside scoop about what was going on at the Chicago 8 trial. So Wes had been around for a long time. He started the Inquiring Mind Journal at Spirit Rock, which was a really important newspaper, a meditation newspaper in the Bay Area for years and years and years. And he would write articles and do interviews with people, and pretty much they were really wonderful articles, and it was a good in to what was going on in practice, not only in the Bay Area, but it just as a teaching for all of us. And so he ran that and started that for years. He wrote a number of books: The Essential Crazy Wisdom, Buddha's Nature, The Big Bang, The Buddha and the Baby Boom, and You Are Not Your Fault. which again is a way to laugh at oneself. He really embedded that in so many great ways. A big part of what he really offered in practice was he studied a lot in modern science and quantum physics, and he saw these modern sciences as being a way to prove what the Buddha was teaching 2,500 years ago, that we are cells and matter, and that we appear and we disappear. I was reading in this book, he was talking about, he discovered that, man discovered that atoms that make us up are 99.9% space. And so he was fascinated by that, basically what we see sitting here, we're space, 99%. I can't fathom that, but it's sort of the reality of who we are. I just want to read you a little bit out of this book, talking about who we are. Ever since we humans grew these big brains, we've been asking these big questions. And to answer them, we've come up with fantastic stories about gods and demons and heavens and hells. And we humans are so arrogant, we have come to believe that the entire universe was made just for us, that we are separately and specially created. Some of us even believe that we are made in God's image, as if God looks like us with a nose and ears and all the rest. But those old stories have become increasingly dysfunctional. They take away our reverence. They take our reverence away from this world and remove humans from the web of life. Our new story tells us that we are related to all of life, and all of life that has ever lived. All of us shaped by I'm sorry, my eyes are going. Much better. All of us shaped by the instructions carried on the elegant spirals of the double helix, the DNA. These tiny molecules seem to be the ingredients that separates life from non-life, revealing that at the most basic level, we are related to the grasses and the trees, the bugs and the beast. Although we may not be all soul brothers and sisters, we are all cell brothers and cell sisters. Can you dig it? That's very Wes. And it puts our sense of self and our identity in a really helpful perspective, I think. Wes was also known as a Buddhist comedian. He said, before I became a Buddhist, I worried about my life. Now I worry about my next life. This is one of my favorites. He proposed a new movement called Zen socialism. The first step would be for the United States to resign as a superpower. To ease a transition, he would introduce a plan, not unlike the New Deal, called the New Age Deal, the Great Leap Backwards. He would establish a United States Department of Meditation and Therapy with deprogramming centers to teach hyperactive people to become less productive members of society. Then would put them to work on disassembly lines, shoveling metal back into the ground and deconstructing the highways. Then we do what we do best, entertain. We'd invite everyone to witness the world's first intentional decline at the theme park called formerly Great America. The downhill rides would be spectacular. He not only can we laugh at ourselves, but as a country, can we laugh at ourselves? Wouldn't it be beautiful if we didn't have to be number one? It would just be so freeing, so liberating in so many ways. Joseph Goldstein, one second. Joseph Goldstein, who many of you may know, but he co-founded the Insight Meditation Society, says of Wes. Wes is masterful at using humor to lighten the enlightenment journey, which can admittedly get fairly heavy. Laughing at the conceit and unpredictability of our minds helps free us from constraining self-images. Constraining self-images, the trap of a strong sense of self. Being able to laugh and be amused by ourselves. And Lama Surya Das, the American Lama who's from the Tibetan tradition, also speaks of Wes and of the use of humor and laughter. The search for God, peace, love, or enlightenment may be a serious business, but we have to lighten up as well as enlighten up along the great way of awakening. Joy is an important part of life and a necessary component of spirit. If we take ourselves too seriously, life ain't much fun. If we take ourselves too seriously, life ain't much fun. The Tibetan tradition of crazy wisdom, defined as a higher form of lucidity that sees through everything, tells us that what the world calls sane, those with clear vision most often consider insane. Is it any wonder when what the world calls insane, the tricksters, the jesters, the holy fools, and the eccentric yogis consider normal? Through their rambunctiousness and inspired foolishness, I personally have been freed from the inhibitions and other mind-forged manacles detrimental to living spirits and free flow energy. I adore Groucho Marx, Lenny Bruce, and others for carrying on that indispensable tradition. He then thanks Wes. Crazy wisdom. Crazy wisdom's a great one. I want to do something if it's okay. Would you pass these around to everybody, please? While I read about crazy wisdom, I want to look out to a group of clowns. If you would amuse me. I'm sorry you at home can't follow along. This is great. I just decided I was going to do this in my meditation. And when thinking about it, my body just started racing with adrenaline. It's so funny when a thought totally changes the chemistry of your body. But this is great. Thank you all. Crazy wisdom. Crazy wisdom is the wisdom of the saint, the Zen master, the poet, the mad scientist, and the fool. Crazy wisdom sees what we live in as a world of illusions, and the emperor has no clothes, and that much of human belief and behavior is ritualized nonsense. Crazy wisdom loves paradox and puns and pie fights and laughing at politicians. Crazy wisdom is a skeptical voice inside us that doubts our importance in the world and questions our belief in higher purpose. It is the nagging suspicion that both our reasons and our reasonings are mistaken. Crazy wisdom laughs at our ridiculous ways and shows compassion for the suffering that results from them. It presents us with the bigger picture and with ways to step lightly through it. Thank you. You may leave them on or take them off. I'm going to take mine off because it's hard to speak. Wes goes on and talks about the four archetypes of crazy wisdom: the clown, the trickster, the jester, and the fool. And all of those could be a talk within themselves, but I just sort of invite you all to look and see, find the clown in you, find the fool in you, find the trickster in you, or find the jester in you. They're all sort of wonderful archetypes that can teach us and that can also help free us, but they also help free other people. They often were used to both alleviate pain and suffering and to show us how silly we are when we take ourselves too seriously. In doing this, I read about this group called Clowns Without Borders. It's an amazing group. It's been around for, I don't know, about 10 years, I believe. And they go into places that have had natural disasters, refugee camps, and places that are in great need where people are living in refugee camps and stuff. And they sent in a group of clowns. And what they basically do is they lighten the load for everybody. And thinking about the age and the time we live in, it's such a gift to others, such an important role that we can play. And then thinking about this too, I was thinking I'm a little bit obsessed with RuPaul's Drag Race too. And it's really a show of clowns and jesters and tricksters in many ways, and a way to reflect back on us, how, who do we think we are in some ways, which is sort of a traditional role of drag as a mirror back to society. I was going to talk a little bit about, let's see what my time is. In just a little bit more on clowns then too. In reading about Wes, I'd heard about this other man named Bernie Glassman for a long time. And some of you might be familiar with Bernie Glassman. He was a Zen Roshi who passed away about 5 years ago, I believe, from the East Coast. And he was an amazing guy, much in the spirit of Wes in a lot of ways too. But he took it in different directions. He started the New York Zen Center, and he would do retreats at the New York Zen Center where you would live on the street for 5 days. You would have to earn $5,000 by calling your friends and asking them for money so that you could go on the retreat. And this was a lesson in begging and in panhandling. He told you not to shave for the week before you go. So when you went out in the street, you looked more like the people that did live in the street. You were allowed $2 a day to live on the street, and everything else you had to get for yourself. You would sleep in bus stations, parks, sidewalks. And you would occasionally meet and discuss what was going on, and you were not to lie about your purpose out there and to say that you were homeless, but that you would really go out there to experience what it was like to live on the street. And many people that went on this retreat said it was the most powerful retreat they ever went on, because you really come in contact directly with suffering. Bernie also led retreats at the concentration camps, where you'd sit in the midst of suffering. And he believed that the witness part of the practice is a key element to it all, that you could witness and feel and be there with the suffering that's around us. I was going to avoid suffering a bit, but suffering is at the foundation of pretty much why we're all here. And Bernie had people soak in it, in a very strong way. But towards the end of his tenure at the New York Zen Center, he left and became a clown. He practiced some with Clowns Without Borders. That's how I found out about Clowns Without Borders. But and I'd heard his name was Bernie the Booby Sattva, his clown name. He started an order called the Order of Disorder, because chaos plays into a lot of this too. Chaos is sort of a key element. And the three treasures of the Order of Disorder were disorder, humor, and love. The three tenets. Not even not knowing. Just wait and belly laughter. The 10 guidelines for the order of disorder. Don't kill anything by taking it seriously. Don't steal anything unless you can get away with it, and you can't. Don't worry about promiscuity. No one would look twice at you, you clown. Don't lie by pretending to know anything. Forget about intoxicants. You're already a mess. Laugh at yourself at least as often as you laugh at others. If someone makes a fool of themselves, pay your respects and join in the fun. If you can smile, smile. If possible, giggle. Whenever there is a chance, laugh with all your might. Have fun, but don't laugh at Bernie. Bernie in and of itself is another full talk, and I encourage you to seek him out. He turned his order into, I think he called himself the Zen Peacemakers, and he started a bakery in New York that hired homeless and untrained people to bake and to serve the food. And it's going really strong today and has helped, I don't know, thousands of people off the streets. And he very engaged Buddhism that also really appreciated the silliness and the clown aspect of all of this. I'm going to wrap it up soon, but I'm going to finish by, I don't know if any of you have heard Wes's poem, Why I Meditate, coming back to Wes Nisker now. A friend of mine posted it when Wes died, and that's how I first came across it. And I fucking love it. It's really wonderful. And I was reading it to my husband yesterday, and I actually started to cry. It's full of humor. It's full of seriousness. And it pretty much covers all the bases of why I meditate, and I want you all to listen in too and see what resonates with you. Why I meditate. I meditate because I suffer. I suffer, therefore I am. I am, therefore I meditate. I meditate because there are so many other things to do. I meditate because when I was younger, it was all the rage. I meditate because of the Buddha, the Bodhidharma, Marco Polo, Carl Jung, Alan Watts, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Alfred E. Newman, et al. I meditate because evolution gave me a big brain, but it didn't come with an instruction manual. I meditate because I have all the information I need. I meditate because the largest colonies of living beings, the coral reefs, are dying. I meditate because I want to touch deep time, where the history of humanity can be seen as an evolutionary adjustment period. I meditate because life is too short and sitting slows it down. I meditate because life is too long and I need an occasional break. I meditate because I want to experience the world as Rumi did, or Walt Whitman, or as Mary Oliver does. I meditate because I know that enlightenment doesn't exist, so I can relax. I meditate because of the Dalai Lama's laugh. I meditate because there are too many advertisements in my head, and I'm erasing all but the very best of them. I meditate because the physicists say there may be 11 dimensions to reality, and I want to get to peek into just a few more of them. I meditate because I want to remember that I'm perfectly human. I meditate because I love Jack Kerouac. Sometimes I meditate because my heart is breaking. Sometimes I meditate so that my heart will break. I meditate because a Vedanta master once told me my Hindi name means, Nisker means non-doer. I meditate because I'm growing old and I want to become more comfortable with emptiness. I meditate because it's such a relief to spend time ignoring myself. I meditate because my country spends more money on weapons than all the other nations in the world combined. If I had more courage, I'll probably immolate myself. I meditate because I'm building a bigger and better perspective, and occasionally I need a new window. I meditate because I want to discover the fifth Brahma Vihara, the divine abode of awe. And then I'll go down in history as a great spiritual adept. I meditate because I'm composed of 100 trillion cells, and from time to time, I need to reassure them that we're all in this together. In closing, one more Wes joke. Our primary wisdom should be transmitted through knock-knock jokes. The disciple comes to the master and asks, knock, knock. And the master answers with the number one spiritual question, who's there? And if you don't get the joke, you are punished to being reborn over and over again until you do. I was surprised how well my desire to talk about my joy in being able to laugh at myself and what freedom and release and dharmic teaching I found in that, and how that worked in with Wes. He will live on through his books, through his words, through his laughter for a long time to come. And I thank you all for your attention, and may this be a benefit for you, and may we share that benefit with others. So I open it up for questions or for sharing of people's ability to laugh at themselves, or whatever it is you'd like to share. We have about, what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so? 10 minutes. Yeah. So thank you. Oh, thank you.
I don't, I can only badly paraphrase this quote, so I'm hoping that maybe somebody else in the room is familiar with it. The first time I ran across it was maybe in Field's bookstore on Polk Street, and there was like a little banner, the Laughing Monk, and the quote is, being that life has nothing to do with good or bad. And then, are people familiar with this at all? Oh, well, okay, so I'm gonna have to paraphrase it really badly. But the quote is, being that life has nothing to do with good or bad, and then he lists two other dualities, and they don't come to mind. But then it ends with, one may well burst out in laughter. And so
right. Right. The paradoxes that we live through, and sort of researching, and thank you for that. That it reminded me that when I was doing my research to try to prepare for this talk, there's such a history of laughter throughout Buddhism in many ways that yeah, the ability to crack a smile at our predicament. What else is there to do but laugh?
Bill, thank you for your talk. I'm curious, how do you teach meditation to kindergartners?
I'll tell you next week. I did it to fifth graders last semester, and they were challenging. it took me a couple of weeks to really get into it. They don't want to sit still. They don't want to pay attention. This is a school in the Tenderloin, and it was, so these kids had some street smarts, I believe, too. And so it was a bit of a challenge, but I realized that when I could do it, some kind of engaged Buddhism with the sense doors, it would really work. When I can engage them in touch and taste and smell and hearing and all of that, it really worked. And we had a great class in eating meditation. And the following week, this girl told the class even about being at a picnic and getting into a hot dog and what she felt and tasted and all this with a hot dog. And so, I find my way. But I helped another friend of mine teach a second grade class a couple of times, and they're much more open and willing to sit. And their ability to go into the make believe and pretend seems really big, which is very helpful for this practice. And so I love kids, and I love being around really young kids too sometimes. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this, but my intention is to be fun and to be honest and to be engaging and see where it goes. And you don't label it meditation as much as focus time. It's a way to focus and to calm down and relax. And I think that the kids can respond to and appreciate things like that. And again, I mean, I realize how much I do sometimes is selfishness. I do things for my own good. And I'm doing this in many ways for me, to be able to be around these young minds and to see my own foolishness in the midst of that sometimes. So. Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. I love the doses. And immediately brought wavy gravy.
He's another talk.
Yeah, isn't that heavy?
Saint misbehaving. Yeah.
Used to run a campaign during the presidential election. Nobody for president.
Yeah.
Nobody's got your back. Nobody would drive a Corvair.
I think Woodstock was as successful as it was because of Wavy Gravy's clown presence in many ways. I mean, I seriously believe this. He kept things a little bit lighter than they could have gone, and he's another great example, like Bernie, of taking this deep wisdom that he has and bringing in the clown element to it, but doing amazing social work with it. His camp Win a Rainbow is one of the most amazing places in California, and has been for what, 20, 30 more years or something. Yeah.
Wes was a real niche,
Yeah.
I did retreats with him, but he was a participant, and also been to his stand-up routines, and he just really got the cosmic laugh,
Yeah. I like that, the cosmic laugh. Yeah. No.
Anybody online? I'll take a second just to say I'm a kindergarten teacher and I teach my kids mindfulness too. And
That's so great.
And what I really appreciate about my job, I was just talking to Cass on the way to work, is like it feels like right livelihood because I'm required to be ridiculous. Like if I want them to be engaged with me, I have to act as silly as I can, put on silly hats, put on puppets, and act ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's instant joy. And while I'm teaching, and I don't notice my phone, I don't notice the passing of time, it's like you're really in there. And I say everyone, please go to SF Ed Fund and sign up as a volunteer and give yourself the gift of like playing with children. It's like they don't know what all the hell that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
They're just like in the moment. They are so and we need to be that way too, just like be in the moment.
Yeah. And I love the way you said you become a clown in some ways.
Yeah,
or a jester or a fool or whatever. Yeah. These are important archetypes. Yeah. Thank you. we have time for one more? Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for a great talk. And, as you were talking, it reminded me of, a person that I think is, another practitioner of insight and mindfulness in daily life, and that's, Taylor Mack, who, and I went to see a show of his last night, which is absurd and funny, and it's really about clowning, and it's full of heart, and it's a wonderful show called Gary. It's a play, and it's over at the Open Theater Project.
So Taylor's in Oakland right now?
He's not in it.
Oh.
It's a play that Taylor wrote.
Gotcha. There's a great documentary on Taylor on HBO too. I highly recommend that. So yeah, thank you. He's a
I don't know that if he's.
and it's a little bit of a drag clown in a way too.
Yeah. He's definitely somebody who practices laughing at himself,
Right.
or having us laugh at ourselves.
Mm. Well, that could be a whole great class, teaching people to laugh at themselves. It's dangerous though, because of the judgment and the yeah, and some things need to be taken seriously in a lot of ways too, but even a little bit of lightness around that, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
I just wanted to add about this play Gary, which I'm intending to go see. It's a sequel to Shakespeare's Titus and Andronicus. So that kind of gives you the context of absurdity. Isn't it basically the premise is Gary has to clean up the mess that's left at the final act?
Yeah, Gary.
Titus and Andronicus.
I mean, he takes three very minor characters from Titus and gives them their own life. It's like we're all important, if we get a chance.
I've always liked Wes Nisker's phrase, if you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own. It's like real invitation to engage Buddhism, I think.
Yeah.
It always spoke to me. It's a fond memory of them. So
Yeah, thank you. There's something very positive about it too, especially if there's so much bad news, go out and make some good news. Because that was always, to me, sort of implied in that.
Thank you, Bill. We should probably wrap up.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
So much.